Greg Stoker. He's a military and geopolitical analyst at Mint Press News. Thank you, Greg, for being with us on the program. Now, the next 60 days, they're going to be crucial in creating this new order along the border. How can we expect the next 2 months to unfold if both sides presumably abide by the agreement?
Well, that's the real thing, isn't it? It's hard to extrapolate or make any predictions with such a tenuous kind of deal. So the premise is that there will be some third party action with to restore order along the border with the U.S. and France and the UN involved. Benjamin Netanyahu has said earlier in his speech today that they will not limit their attacks or their ability to make reprisals against Hezbollah from anything from smuggling weapons in to rebuild their military capabilities. And the U.S. senior officials have said, no, Israel will not have complete military autonomy within southern Lebanon. And then we have to also acknowledge that this ceasefire happened because neither side could accomplish necessarily their objectives militarily. Hezbollah couldn't force a ceasefire in Gaza, and the IDF couldn't establish a buffer zone to get their people, the displaced people in northern Israel, the citizens, back to the north without a diplomatic solution. People are hoping that this snowballs into a ceasefire in Gaza, but I think looking at the history and the precedent set over the past year, they'll just simply refocus, shift to striking targets in Syria, potentially Iraq, but I don't think that will happen just yet, and then refocusing higher intensity operations in the Gaza Strip.
Right. We just got some updates in the last hour or so saying that the U.S. Has struck an Iran-aligned group's weapons storage facility within Syria. Talk to us a bit about the timing and the significance of this particular attack conducted by the U.S.
Well, first of all, U.S. airstrikes are nothing new in Syria. They haven't been for the past 10 years. And it's not just the U.S. The Israeli Air Force apparently has struck most official crossings from Syria into Lebanon. There are reports of strikes happening in Homs. And the U.S., while not willing to strike Hezbollah targets in Lebanon or in Palestine, they have been willing to strike militia targets or what they perceive to be militia targets in Iraq and in the greater Levant. So this is just showing that the United States, it can be interpreted as a show of force, that the United States will be actively involved in stopping weapons transfers from along the corridor from Iran through Syria into Lebanon.
Right, and the U.S., they've been saying that they're going to help the Lebanese army recover and strengthen their positions. What does this mean in terms of, U.S. arms being given and sold to these parties within Lebanon and aid being delivered to the country?
Yeah, I think the free flowing of aid into Lebanon will definitely be a top priority for the United States, trying to rebuild its reputation in the region and establish a better working relationship with the Lebanese government. U.S. will use aid and military advisors and training, most likely, because this is what I say we, as in the U.S. government. I'm no longer part of that, but this is what we do to strengthen, diplomatic relations and also influence, the soft power, the ability to co-opt rather than to coerce amongst the local population. So humanitarian aid into Lebanon will probably happen speedily, and then military advisors and trainers. We'll try to build the Lebanese military up with the idea that they would be able to challenge Hezbollah sometime in the future, but I think that's a patently unrealistic goal.
Right. I mean, the long-term effectiveness of this deal, a lot of people doubt it because they say we've seen conflict after conflict between Israel and Hezbollah, and we haven't seen everlasting peace between the two parties. In terms of the long-term effects, what's your assessment?
Well, the long-term effects is that Lebanon is going to have to go through a heavy amount of reconstruction. Same with Israel. The Lebanese economy is hurting. Israel's economy has been shrinking as well. People have been fleeing the country. And then militaries, both Hezbollah and the IDF have been severely degraded. Of course, there's an obsession amongst Western circles and Israeli circles of cutting the head off the snake. That they think that some people think that just because a group of leaders has been killed, we've reduced their capacity or completely thrown their network into confusion, which is not true. However, they have been degraded, and also the IDF is having massive recruiting problems and ammunition shortfalls. Yesterday, in the Washington Post, a newspaper very sympathetic to Israel, they said explicitly they were telling anecdotal stories where an entire half a special operations team refused to show up for duty. Like, they're having massive I wouldn't call it desertion problems, but they cannot enforce military service with the amount of reservists that are refusing to come back to service as well. So they're both degraded. They both need to replenish arms and reorganize. And they'll probably take some time in doing that, but there's no reason to think that this ceasefire is not in a completely tenuous situation that can erupt at any moment.
Yeah, and I mean, there's the Iran factor in all of this. Talk to us about Iran's position, what you expect from them moving forward.
I don't think there's going to be any major escalations or any shifts in policy until the Trump administration. Iran has said explicitly, the IRGC has said explicitly, that we're going to wait and respond to Israel's last attack at a time and place of our choosing. We're going to wait and see what happens with the Trump administration and the Trump's policies towards Iran. What's going to be interesting is to see how the Iranian government responds to Trump and his cabinet, which is very pro-Israel, very hawkish against Iran. So, yeah, I mean, they'll probably, as we suspect, give Israel a freer hand and give Israel more political cover and less pressure to be less bellicose within the region. How Iran will respond to that? Well, there's still other networks within which Western media calls proxies, but that's not my favorite term for it, that are still going to, that have not yet been put into play as well.
Okay, Greg Stoker, thank you so much for being with me here on TRT World and sharing that insight with us. I appreciate it.
Thank you.